The story I'm about to share with you isn't just about wealth or power or even loss. It's about family, truth, and the kind of justice that takes 30 years to arrive but changes everything when it finally does. So settle in, and if stories like this move you, don't forget to subscribe, because what you're about to hear proves that real love can survive anything, even a lifetime of lies. It all started on what should have been a regular afternoon. David Thompson, one of Chicago's most successful construction CEOs, was sitting in the lobby of the Golden Years nursing home, about to sign a $500,000 donation check. A good deed, something he did out of habit more than necessity. But as he put pen to paper, the sounds of pleading voices and dragging feet broke the calm. He glanced up and saw the head nurse, exasperated, practically hauling a frail, 72-year-old black woman through the corridor. "Please, sir, she can't stay here anymore. She's causing too much trouble for the other residents." David felt an odd chill as he watched. The woman's hair was wild, her hospital gown threadbare, but something about her eyes, deep, tired, but defiant, made him pause. "What's happening here?" he asked, his CEO tone slipping into something softer. The nurse shot him an annoyed look. "It's the patient in room 247. Rosa Johnson. Advanced dementia. Keeps disturbing everyone with these stories about a son who doesn't exist." She rolled her eyes. "She says her boy David became a rich man, always drawing buildings, promising to come back for her. But it's just sad. Dementia does that. People invent entire lives." David's heart froze. Rosa Johnson. That name hit him like a punch, pulling up fragments he'd buried years ago. He took a step closer, eyes scanning her face, her posture, suddenly seeing not just an old woman, but someone he somehow knew. Rosa turned, her gaze focusing on him with a clarity that didn't match her supposed diagnosis. "David, my boy, you've grown so much," she whispered, voice trembling, yet fierce enough to stir up memories David thought he'd lost forever. The nurse laughed nervously. "See, she does this with every man who visits. Thinks everyone is her lost son." But David wasn't listening anymore. Images flashed in his mind. Lullabies, the scent of cookies, a gentle hand on his head, someone calling him my prince at bedtime. "Rosa," he murmured, trying out the name like it was a secret. "Rosa Johnson." Her eyes welled with tears. "Do you remember Mama Rosa?" David was adopted at age 5 by the wealthy Thompson family, who told him his nanny had left for personal reasons. He never questioned it, never searched for answers. Until now, faced with the woman who raised him, who'd loved him, and who had vanished without a trace. "How did you end up here?" he asked quietly. But before Rosa could answer, the nurse jumped in. "Let's get her back to her room, Mr. Thompson. We can finish your donation." David's voice cut through the room like a knife. "I asked her." He reached for Rosa's trembling hand. "They said you'd be better off without a poor black nanny," Rosa whispered. "Said I wasn't fit to raise a child. They sent me away, and I never saw you again." The realization struck David like lightning. His golden childhood had been built on a lie that had stolen 30 years from the only person who truly loved him. As Rosa's memories tumbled out, broken lullabies, bedtime stories, pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse, David's anger grew. Who had orchestrated this separation? And why had his adoptive parents never told him the truth? That night, David canceled all his meetings and sat with Rosa for hours, collecting every shard of his real childhood. Each story, each memory, made the pain sharper, but also gave him strength. When Rosa described the day she was forced to leave, a man in a suit, threats of arrest, a bribe of $500 to start a new life, David demanded names. "Charles Morrison," Rosa whispered. "He said he handled delicate cases for important families." David's blood ran cold. Charles Morrison was infamous among Chicago's elite, a lawyer who specialized in private adoptions. Morrison had been dead for 5 years, but his firm still operated. The pieces began to fit, and David's heart filled with fury and resolve. Determined to get answers, David ordered his assistant, Jake, to dig into everything about the head nurse, Patricia Wells. Within hours, Jake uncovered a stunning truth. Patricia received $2,000 a month from an offshore account controlled by Morrison's firm. Rosa hadn't wandered in off the street, as the nurse claimed. She'd been transferred directly from a private psychiatric clinic where she'd spent 25 years, admitted and paid for by David's own adoptive father, Richard Thompson. The betrayal was so deep, David felt physically sick. His adoptive father hadn't just stolen Rosa from his life. He'd locked her away, medicated, silenced for decades. The next morning, David arrived at the nursing home with a team of independent doctors. After hours of careful examination, the neurologist, Dr. Amanda Foster, gave her verdict. Mr. Thompson, this woman doesn't have dementia. She's been suffering from severe psychological trauma and the effects of decades of unnecessary psychiatric medication. Someone was keeping her sedated on purpose. David confronted Patricia at the front desk, his voice low and cold. "How long have you known Rosa wasn't demented?" he demanded. Patricia stammered, blaming doctor's orders from Dr. Morrison. "I have a family to support." David's eyes narrowed. Rosa had a family, too, one you helped destroy. He gave her 24 hours to produce every single medical record from the past 30 years, or else. That night, for the first time in decades, Rosa slept without the haze of sedatives. Meanwhile, David and Jake spent hours combing through the files Patricia had handed over, proof of a conspiracy that went far beyond one family. David called Michael Rodriguez, the best investigative attorney in Chicago, a man who hated the corrupt elite as much as David now did. By the time Michael finished reading, he was white with shock. "David, this is massive. At least 15 families, 40 years, all the same pattern. Children of poor caregivers disappeared, rehomed by the rich, the original caregivers labeled as unfit, locked away, or worse." David visited Rosa, who was now more lucid than she'd been in decades. "Do you remember anyone else? Anyone like you?" he asked. Rosa nodded, remembering other nannies. Carmen, who escaped the clinic but never saw her twins again. Martha, who tried to sue and was found dead under suspicious circumstances. Each story added fuel to the fire. "Rosa, I'm going to bring them all down," David vowed. "Every single person who profited from this." But Rosa warned him, "Be careful, my boy. These people are powerful." David smiled grimly. "They have no idea who they're dealing with now." The next night, Richard Thompson called, voice icy. "David, I hear you've been visiting that nursing home. You're letting yourself be fooled by the fantasies of a sick woman." David replied, "And how do you know so much about her condition, Dad?" The silence on the other end told him everything. After he hung up, David called Michael. "They took the bait. They're watching me. Let's move." Together with prosecutor Janet Williams, a relentless fighter for justice, they built an airtight case, connecting the dots between lawyers, clinics, and powerful families. Janet asked David why he was risking everything. "You could just get Rosa back," she said. David looked out at the city skyline. "For 30 years, an extraordinary woman was locked up while I lived a lie. If they did that to her, they did it to others. I have to end this." Janet nodded. "This will destroy your old life, David. Every good memory you have will change." David replied, "I'd rather live with a painful truth than a comfortable lie." The operation began at dawn. Federal agents raided 17 homes across Chicago. David watched, unflinching, as Richard Thompson was led away in handcuffs. Richard called from the police station, begging, "David, this is a misunderstanding. We did it for you." David replied, "You gave me a life built on someone else's pain. Now you'll lose everything, just as Rosa did." The press conference was broadcast nationwide. Prosecutor Williams exposed the whole network: bank transfers, fake medical records, victim testimonies. Rosa sat by David's side, dignified and strong. Carmen Rodriguez, one of the victims, cried as she spoke. "They told me I was unfit, that I was sick. Today I found out my children are alive." The city erupted. Protests outside clinics, social media demanding justice. #JusticeRosa trended for days. Wealthy families who adopted through the scheme faced impossible choices: return children to their birth families or face public outrage and the law. Margaret Thompson, David's adoptive mother, called him in tears. "We lost everything," David replied. "No, you lost what you never deserved to keep. I got Rosa back." That's real justice. 3 days later, David moved Rosa into a beautiful new home with a sunny garden, loving caregivers, and all the support she needed. "How does it feel, seeing them finally pay?" he asked. Rosa smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "I finally feel free. I have you, my family, again." David promised her, and all the other victims, they would make sure this never happened again. He poured his fortune into the Rosa Johnson Foundation for Family Protection, helping families reunite and exposing similar networks across the country. Richard Thompson spent the rest of his days in prison, friendless, stripped of power. Margaret had a breakdown, now medicated in a public clinic, just as Rosa had been. Patricia lost her license, reduced to cleaning hospital floors. Every one of them faced the very isolation and humiliation they had inflicted. 2 years later, David's foundation had helped reunite dozens of families. Rosa, now radiant at 74, baked cookies for children she called her grandkids. Janet Williams, now Attorney General, kept sending good news, appeals denied, justice served. The story even became a national sensation. A documentary, new laws, and college ethics courses taught about the case. But for David, the real reward was simple. Sitting in the garden with Rosa, hearing stories from the childhood he'd finally gotten back, knowing every tear and every fight had led to hope for so many others. "Do you feel sorry for them?" he asked one afternoon, watching a family hug through the window. Rosa shook her head. "I feel sorry for what they chose to become, but not for what happened. They had decades to do the right thing." That night, as David and Rosa prepared to welcome another family to their center, he realized that some things, love, truth, belonging, can't be bought, stolen, or locked away. They always find their way home. Richard Thompson tried to steal 30 years from a child, but ended up losing the rest of his own life. He learned that the most powerful revenge isn't driven by rage, but by justice, compassion, and the quiet satisfaction of seeing wrongs made right for generations to come. If this story touched you, if it reminds you that love, justice, and truth can heal even the deepest wounds, subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes the happiest endings are the ones built from years of tears, hope, and the determination never to give up on family.